We've got the latest update on the Elite AEW suspensions. WWE is considering a change to an upcoming premium live event, and there's growing concern in WWE for Randy Orton. Stay tuned for the news. Back for a third time today. It's been a busy old Saturday, Sam, hasn't it? And we've got more wrestling news. We're going to start things off with an update on the Elite and their AEW suspensions. Obviously, it's a busy month and a half covering.
Yeah, it's been one of those situations where, every time we bring it up, it's always, when we find out more, we'll keep you informed. So every single little update. But people want to know, it's a very interesting situation that's developed, spawning off the back of a backstage brawl.
Yeah.
So, people's sort of suspended and in and around the situation. It's very unclear. So
that's the thing. And we've got an update from the Wrestling Observer newsletter saying, regarding the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, they all hadn't heard anything from the company, at least as of a few days ago. The company hasn't and won't address anything regarding pretty much anything these days on these types of subjects. Very Dave Meltzer wording of that. But the belief is that their situation is on hold pending potential legal action, which, unless cleared up, could delay things for some time. And there's also a second holdup that hasn't been made clear. Now, obviously, we don't know what that second holdup could be, but it's fairly understandable that if there's any legal ramifications of what happened, we want to keep them sat at home.
Well, that's sort of it, isn't it? If it is indeed progressing to a legal position where, potentially court can be involved and lawyers are going to have to start drawing a load of stuff up, then, it's all just going to be very much up in the air for a little bit by the sounds of things. But imagine, out the back of this, imagine an AEW with CM Punk but no Elite.
Right.
And Elite's right there in the name.
It's so strange, the fact that the start of this year, the thought of Cody Rhodes and the Elite all being gone from AEW.
Laughable.
Yeah. And it's 2022 has been a strange year for wrestling news. I think we can all agree on that. And the fact that the Elite's AEW future is kind of up in the air at the moment is even weirder.
It's just sort of, I don't know, it's just been a hell of a year.
It has indeed. I think we'll hopefully find out more soon about the future of them in AEW. But for now, the company isn't even saying anything to them about what their suspension holds for their future. But we're going to move things over to WWE because WWE has been. They've got lots of premium live events, and we know they love their branding. But one branding choice, Day One, a pay-per-view that takes place on
Day One of the year,
could
when everybody's really hungover.
It's a baffling decision.
It's sitting in there, just absolutely hanging, and then the pyro goes off. Could you
imagine? It's bad enough we've got to sit here hanging watching it. But Wrestling Observer newsletter once again has said a decision will be made this week regarding the date of Day One pay-per-view premium live event show on Day One. But if they're changing the date,
I hope they stick to the name and convert like Day 632, even though that
wouldn't work. But like Day 3, that it doesn't feel as
Day 12.
But right now the show is scheduled for the 1st of January at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, but there is talk that it could be changed and the announcement would be made next week, as in this coming Monday, if that's the case. Although we were told that either way it would remain at the building. As of right now, Lesnar is scheduled to be on the show, which is the next show that he's billed on. The US show that's not.
I think, Day One is, it's one of those ones that's just kind of popped up where, where we had like Starrcade and we had all these very exclusive sort of events where they were kind of one night only deals. But Day One, it's an interesting situation like of a show because it's the first day of the year, it's a brand new leaf or whatever, we're moving on, but I don't know, man.
I think it was a weird choice.
You can't really move it from Day One.
You can't move it from Day One with the Day One branding. Like, that's the thing. It's all
unless
like
it's like they're going to do it every month and it'll be like Day 1 of January, Day 1 of February.
I mean, they started WrestleMania Backlash, so I wouldn't be surprised if they go Day 1 or Week 1, Day 3. Like
the road to WrestleMania, Day 1.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a strange place to have a pay-per-view or a premium live event. We've got Royal Rumble at the end of January. We've got shows in December.
I suppose, though, you know, it does kind of lend itself to it, given that it's a time of year where a lot of people are kind of, you know, together in one room. And you've got people sort of captive with a need to watch things.
I don't know about you, but my household this past Christmas, we sat down for Christmas, New Year's, we sat down and we watched the wrestling. We watched day one.
I made my family sit through a whole year of Raw.
Yeah,
I just put it on like fast forward, but just made them sit there and watch it.
I mean, that's what they should be doing every single year. They're sticking with WWE and premium live events for the upcoming Extreme Rules, which is next weekend. There's talk of another title match being added or considered for the show. Tell me a little bit about that, Sam.
Well, there's no word on it, apparently, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter. But apparently, you know, with it being one of the most pushed acts, but that'd be the Usos. There's sort of no word there. And the Bobby Lashley US Championship situation, which is kind of... Yeah, I don't know.
So it looks like there's... The Wrestling Observer was told that the Usos are still in discussion for a match at the show, but nothing was definite. Right now, I can only really see them maybe... My first choice was the Brawling Brutes, but they're going into the Irish Donnybrook match. Maybe Street Profits again. We've seen that quite a few times already. But it's baffling that the Usos, being one of the most pushed acts of the company, are currently not slated for the show.
I get it, you know, maybe it's one of those things where with them being in and around Roman, it's a lot easier to kind of have them have a similar attitude to Roman, where they kind of pick and choose as and where they want to appear. But in terms of, you know, getting as many belts on the show as possible, you'd expect it. But then again, you know, it's not out of the ordinary for them to just not announce something and then boom, there's a match that happens. So it could just be one of those.
The other thing is that Extreme Rules is packed with stipulations this year, the first time in a while. So perhaps with those matches having stipulations, the time on the show is going to take up more. So they don't need these matches to fill it out as much.
No, not necessarily. And I guess Extreme Rules is all about the spectacle of things. So it is, maybe a show where you can get away without acts such as the Usos or, you know, US champion.
Well, again, Bobby Lashley's been on a run for the past 2 years. It's some of the best work in his entire career. It feels strange not to have the US title on the show, but they have, and especially once they've been adding so much prestige to those belts in recent months. But we're going to switch things up after Extreme Rules and move over to AEW because Andrade El Idolo, he's been quite vocal online, free El Idolo and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of teasing.
So there's been a few teases of little things like that, but it's been announced for next week's AEW Rampage that Andrade El Idolo will face Preston Vance in a Mask versus AEW career match. Ooh. So Preston Vance of the Dark Order obviously was gifted that mask by the late great Brody Lee, but Andrade's wanting that mask. Or he's going to leave AEW.
Could you imagine if he just goes on a whole run of just stipulation matches where it's whatever versus my career, and he just keeps winning, and he's like, I just want to retire, guys. I just want to retire. Can one of you beat me?
Please. Yeah, he just does the finger poke of doom, just lies down.
But even then kicks out at 2.
Oh, because he can't. Yeah, he's got to look strong. But it's interesting that we've got this match, especially, I think, having the sort of online rumours about Andrade, this has actually brought more attention to this match.
There's a lot of stock in Andrade as a talent, I feel, wherever he may be, whether he's being utilized correctly or not. I think that you cannot deny the guy's ability, the guy's raw talent, and he's somebody that I think would fare very well under a certain other regime on a different side of the fence,
perhaps.
But at the same time, it's kind of, you can't have Preston lose the mask.
No, you can't have him. It's part of his thing now. It's Brody Lee gave it to
that's
him.
It's so tied to Brody, and
well, I guess we'll have to wait and see come Rampage. But we're going to look at, speaking of like the new regime. Triple H was a big fan of Andrade, and Triple H is getting a reunion with his DX buddies on Raw.
Well, not all of them.
Not all of them, exactly, Sam. WWE seems to be a bit prepared in case there's a lot of daddy ass chants.
Yes.
Now, obviously, daddy ass loves a bit of the scissoring, and perhaps there'll be lots of scissor me daddy ass chants.
I think there will be, and there will be now more so that this news has sort of got out there. But, you know, they are kind of, they're not going to go into a situation like that without thinking about it, are they?
Absolutely. Well, Wrestling Observer newsletter once again has said he was told that if a daddy ass chant happens on Raw for the DX reunion, they will be ready. It's It's Triple H's first time on Raw since he took over as head of creative, so expect him to get a monster reaction, which he absolutely will do. It was a smart move to come up with this because at the time it was announced, they only had 4,500 tickets sold for a show just over 2 weeks away. I actually looked at lots of recent ticket sales for shows recently.
Yeah.
It's crazy. The numbers seem to be really down across the board for all of it, but the interest seems to be at a level high recently online.
And hopefully when everybody's economies kind of sort themselves out a little bit more, then there'll be more money available to pump back into wrestling as it's getting more popular. So hopefully, it's going to lead to that bit more boom. But I think, what do you think they're going to do? There's going to be a Triple H put down. There always is.
Yeah, he'll say something about how it's a small time company.
I want him to have. You seen Arrested Development where they have there's like the avatar, and he just comes along and repeats what's said to him with the camera on his hat. Just that. They just pretend that Billy's got an avatar.
Yeah, do that. I'm trying to think what other options they could. I guess just have like a blow up doll and pretend it to be Billy Gunn
in the little kissy trunk.
I think personally, I think they just have to tackle it head on and just embrace it and have
I think
Triple H and Shawn Michaels scissor on screen.
Yeah, why not?
That's what
the people are calling for.
But we've got an update on a NXT star who's recently been injured. Sam, what's the update?
So this comes from The Observer, and it's word on Tony D'Angelo. Now, the last on it was that he'd be out 6 to 8 weeks, but that info, it's more than a week old now, so he didn't really need major surgery, apparently. Hopefully that means it's not going to be as severe, and it hopefully means that we're going to be on the lower end of that 6 to 8 week, if not before it.
I mean, I really hope he comes back to the ring soon. I think Tony D'Angelo has been one of the highlights of NXT 2.0, and maybe as much as things haven't changed drastically in NXT, if I feel like he could be a center point going forward still on this new one.
You can't help but watch him. Whenever he's on screen, you can't help but kind of get caught up in it, and that's the secret X ingredient, isn't it? So if you've got that, there's no real stopping you, because they can teach you everything else.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully he recovers from his injury soon. But we're going to speak about one final injury today, and it's unfortunately Randy Orton. Again, the Observer saying that there is a lot of concern regarding Orton's back injury and its severity. He's been out of action since May earlier this year. It was revealed that he had to undergo surgery, and he was expected to be out for the rest of the year. But this is quite a worrying update.
Yeah, I think that, it's one of those situations where when you have like neck injuries, back injuries, head injuries, it just should take as much time as it needs to take. Like if the situation is that, prognosis is pushed back and he's going to be even longer away, then fine, as long as he's fit and healthy when he comes back. And as long as it's, not to a point where, he's going to have to question whether he can still, be in the ring. And because, I don't want to see Randy Orton,
you don't want to see him
retiring. It feels like he's still got so much to give.
Yeah.
So it's like if it takes, even another 6 months, 8 months, I'm as long as he's happy.
As long as he's happy and healthy,
safe,
as you say, it feels like he's been around for so long. But also at the same time, in the grand scheme of things, he's still relatively young, and he can still go really, really well. He's worked a really smart style throughout his entire career.
Is it 20 years this year?
Something like about 20 years. But he's worked a really smart style. He's not suffered from a lot of tough injuries throughout his career. So I guess the concern is that it's how long will it take for him to get back? But we do want to see him back soon. I hope maybe Royal Rumble. That was my hope.
Great.
Him and Cody getting a reunion spot in the Rumble. That's my fantasy booking. But that is all the news we've got for you today. Sam, have you got anything you want to plug? What's coming out this weekend?
We've just got all the sort of usual stuff. There's a big, I think it's secret. I don't think it's been talked about. There's a big thing that's coming out this weekend that I'm watched through with Dan the other day, and it's been edited fantastically by Owen Mawson. It's presented by Adam Pacitti, and that's about all I can say on it. But
stay tuned for that.
It's by far and away the most serious piece of content we've ever done. I think so.
Well, keep an eye on that coming up the channel at some point soon. But we will see you later.